Percent. As you look at the word percent, you'll see it consists of two words, the word per and the word cent. That's per 100 or parts of 100. So if you see something percent, some number percent, that's the same as n over 100. So for example, 0.03, since that's in the 3's in the hundreds place, that's the hundreds. That's the hundreds place. I write that 3 over 100. And once you write 3 over 100, that's the same as 3%. So let's do some examples of some conversions. We're going to start with converting percents to decimals. Now what you can do is you can divide by 100, or you can move the decimal 2 places to the left. Now, one way to remember this part right here, 2 places to the left, is just to think about the alphabet. When you say your alphabet, A, B, C, D, da 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 da, and you come to P. So if you're going from percents to decimals, you're going to the left, percent to decimal. The reason why it's 2 places is because the number 100 has 2 zeros in it. So here we go. We're going to take that 35%. Now there's the decimal on the end, and we're going to move it 2 places to the left. 1, 2. So that means that 35% is the same as 0.35. Now you also could take a calculator and divide 35% by 100. Or divide 35 by 100 if you wanted to. You get the same thing. Now if you want to know the reason why, is because if I write that 35 over 100, there's a rule that says that, well, there's a decimal here. Now if I move that decimal to where I'm dividing by 1, which means I move it 2 places to the left, that means I have to take this decimal and move it 2 places to the left. That's the real reason why you're moving it to the left 2 places, in case you're wondering. Now let's take 0.2%. So we got the percent. I'm not sure what that is. Do you know what that was? I didn't know either. So you got 0.2%. I'm just going to take the decimal, move it 2 places to the left. Now when you move and there's an empty space, you put a 0 in. So 0.2% is the same as 0.002. Now let's take the 14.5% and let's move the decimal 2 places to the left. That means we come up with 2.145. That's this decimal. Now, if you're given a decimal, you're going to go to percent. Remember your alphabet, A, B, C, D, da, 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 da. That means you're going to go from a decimal to percent, you go 2 places to the right. Or times it by 100. Either way you want to do it. So I just move it 2 places to the right. 0.34 becomes 34%. 0.02, and you move it 2 places to the right, becomes 2%. How about 1.37? That becomes 137%. Yes, you can get percents over 100%. And then 0.008, let's move it 2 places to the right, and it becomes 0.84%. Yes, you can have percents that are less than 1. Now let's convert fractions to percents. There are a couple ways of doing this. We're going to use decimal approximations if we need to. One way is to first convert to decimal and then to percent, or we can use this little formula, is over of equals percent over 100. I'm actually going to do them both ways. So start the 2 over 5. Now the 2 over 5, if you take out your calculator and just type that in, 2 divided by 5, just take it as it is, you'll get 0.4 or 0.4. Now and that's a decimal. So that's a decimal. And then you go to the percent. You just take that decimal, move it 2 places to the right, and you get 40%, just like we did before. Now the other way we could approach this problem, we could take this as over of equals what percent over 100 and do it that way, and use a proportion. So take 2 over 5 equals percent. We don't know what the percent is, so just call it a P over 100. And then you would cross multiply. I don't know if you know how to crisscross multiply. Hey, jump. Crisscross. You would take 2 times 100 equals, that's the key thing, equals 5 times P. Then you would get 200 equals 5P. And then to solve that, you would just divide both sides by 5. And when you type that in, 200 divided by 5 is 40 also. And the good thing about that method is that you don't have to move decimals. So how do you do it is totally up to you. Just to save some time, I'm going to use my calculator and convert these next two examples into decimals. I'll just do it that way. Now that's actually going to be 87.5% in case you wondered. Because 7 divided by 8 is 0.875. And then I move that decimal 2 places to the right. 87.5%. And then it's 9 over 11. We'll have to round it off because it's not going to go evenly. So let's just do 9 divided by 11. Probably get something like 0.81, but I guess. Well, what do you know? 0.818181. I'm going to round that off to 0.818. Then we'll move that decimal 2 places to the right. We get 81.8%. Not so bad. Now we have some word problems. Your favorite thing in the world. Word problems. Percent increase or percent decrease. What this is actually finding the percentage profit or percentage markup or percentage markdown or percentage discount. They all kind of mean the same thing. What this actually means is you're going to find the difference in the two given values and you divide by the original. But some people like this new minus old over old. Totally up to you, but I kind of like the difference divided by the original myself. So, well, what is the difference? The reason why I like this one because we always want a positive answer. If we use the new minus old, you might get a negative answer. It's the same thing, just watch out for that. It actually would be better if you had absolute value bars around that. So you make sure you get a positive answer. So the difference of the two, you just take 333 minus 285. And what do you get? 33, 40, 48. Did y'all get 48? And we can always use a calculator if we want to help us out. Don't worry if you have to use a calculator. Not a big deal. And then we divide by the original amount. Well, Friday comes before Saturday. See that? It goes Friday and then Saturday. So Friday's attendance was 285. That's the original amount. So that's what we're going to divide by then. Now on this percent, or we want a percent answer, so you're going to times that by 100%, whatever you get. Times it by 100. Or just move the decimal, however you want to approach it. So let's just take the 48 and divide it by 285. And we get, let's just call it 0.168. Now that's the decimal. As a percent, like I said, you could times it by 100 and then put the percent symbol, or just move it 2 places to the right and then put the percent symbol. However you want to do it, it's totally up to you. But make sure you find the difference divided by the original. Difference divided by the original. So I'm going to take this example. It started at 20,145 and it decreased down to 18,430. If you use this, you'll get a negative answer. So that's why you're going to use the bars. But the reason why I like this one better is because of the original. The original is what you started with. Why did it start with? 20,145. So we got 20,145 minus 18,430. We get 1715. That was a good year. I remember that year. And divide that by 20,145. So divide that by 20,145. And we get, I'm just going to write it down here, 0.085. And then if I want to, not if, but I want to convert that to a percent, that becomes 8.5%. Not so bad. Now percent equations. On these, you see certain words, common words. Is means equal, of means to multiply, and what is the unknown variable. Now what you do is you always start with of. Got that? It's kind of the best way to think about it. And then start with of, or of before is, or whatever. That's kind of how you think about it. This is only if we're using this formula. Yes, this formula has many applications. So you might want to use it down here on these. It's totally up to you. So I'm going to write that down. And you don't actually start with of, you start with the percent. So maybe erase that because, you know, I may have lied a little bit. You start with P, then of. That could be bad grammar, so I might want to put that inside there. If using this. But let's use it with the words first, and then I'll come back and use this. So what number? I don't know. What are you going to call it? What do you call it? X. Is? Don't know. But I do know because it means equal. 30%. I don't use the the percent. I use the decimal. So I move that decimal 2 places to the left. We get 0.30. Of means to multiply. So I'm going to use a parentheses for that. 200. And so you just multiply that out. And 30% of 200 should be 60. If you don't believe me, hey, let's type it in. 60. What do you know? Now the other way is to use this is over of. And you may like this method better. I really don't know. So start with the P. What's the percent? Well, actually start with the 100 on the bottom because that never ever changes. So we got 2 fraction bars. 100's on the bottom. P is the percent, so we keep that 30 as it is. And then you do the of. Is last. Of comes next. Of is after 200. And then what number is your is? That's your x. That's your unknown. And then as before, you cross multiply. Crisscross. Hey, hey, jump, jump. X times 100 is 100x. 300 times 30 times 200 is 6,000. Divide both sides by 100. Cancel your zeros and you get 60, or type in your calculator. So either way you want to do it is totally up to you. You may prefer this method better. I don't know. It is totally up to you. But I'm going to tend to do these problems with percents. So let's do this one now. 8 is means equals. 25% as a decimal is 0.25. What number? We don't know. So we're going to call it x. And so, and that does mean times. So you can put that in parentheses if you want, but you don't have to. So if I do that, I'm going to write it like this, and then divide both sides by 0.25. Then just take out your calculator and type in 8 divided by 0.25. Or 0.25, and we get 32. Now this one, we have 14, and then is means equals. Percent, we don't know, call it x. Of means times by 140. And you can rewrite it like that if you want to. So it's very similar to this example, other than we want to find the percent. So we're going to divide both sides by 140. Now on this one, be very careful. So let's divide 14 by 140. And we get 0.1. The reason why I say be careful is asking for the percent, which means you take that decimal, move it 2 places to the right, and we get 10%. So watch out for that. Now this last example, Or no, we got two more, it looks like. 60% of what number is 12? Start to 60%, change it to a decimal, which is 0.60. Of means times. What's the number? You don't know. Call it x. Is means equals, and then 12. So you have 0.60 x equals 12. Divide both sides by 0.60. And then take out your calculator if you need to. You're going to get 20 as the answer, but just so you can see that. There you go. And then the last example. What percent of 80 is 20? What percent, you don't know, call it x. Means to multiply. 80 is equal 20. Rewrite that as 80x equals 20 because most people prefer to write it that way. And then divide both sides by 80. Take out your calculator and you get 20 divided by 80, which is 0.25. And we want the percent, so watch out for that. So move the decimal 2 places to the right, and we get 25%. And I believe that's it. Yes, it is.